Hey, yo, what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Ashton Jackson, and in today's video, man, we're going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys and my personal expectations on the Dallas Cowboys. Where do I want to see the Dallas Cowboys at the end of the season? What do I want them to accomplish? Things of that nature. So, before we hop into the video, I would appreciate if you guys would like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content. And also comment, what is your own personal expectation of the Dallas Cowboys, whether you like the team or you do not? So hopping straight into the video, man. Again, we're talking about expectations in the Dallas Cowboys, and everyone's expecting a certain answer. Look, um, this is the part where I really love being a Dallas Cowboy fan, and the reason why I love it is for so many reasons, other than growing up with it, and people introducing you to the team and everything like that. I just love the lore about the Dallas Cowboys and their whole entire history from the 70s, 60s, 80s, 90s, whatever, so on and so forth, the good, bad, and the ugly that comes with this team. And I love that every single time that I go out in public, no matter where I've lived or where I've been, big market or small market, everybody has something good or bad to say about the Dallas Cowboys, and I always invite the beef, or I always invite the sports trash talk or the sports hate that comes with wearing wearing the jersey, wearing the symbol. I love it. I embrace it. It's something that I love to talk about. I'm very passionate about because I love the Dallas Cowboys more than a lot of things in my life, right? So the thing with me, and that the pressure is always going to be on the Dallas Cowboys. The pressure is always going to be Super Bowl or bust. That's what it's always going to be here. It's always going to be, the Dallas Cowboys. They have to play in the NFC Championship game. And some years, you're absolutely right. Right? Under certain coaches that we had, whether you look at any of those Mike McCarthy-led teams or some of those Jason Garrett-led teams, those were lofty expectations. But I think that if somebody looks at a roster from top down, for example, 2015, or you look at what we had in 2022, I think sometimes the Dallas Cowboys, they put a lot of expectations, but if you really are in my seat, or if you're in other great Cowboy creators spaces and you understand, you break down this team every day like how we do on a day-to-day type basis, you can understand whether or not if our roster is ready to compete to play in the last Sunday of January or the second week of February, right? But with all that being said, those are my expectations. And the reason why my expectations are that I want the Dallas Cowboys to play in a big time game, because that is always the expectation. When you're a big market team and you have talent and you've been to the playoffs in the past 5 or 6 years, you've been there multiple times, you have a lot of great players, whether they're currently great or not, but as long as they have that all pro tag next to their name and has been within the last 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years, you're going to have a lot of expectations. And that's just what happens when it comes with a big market team. So those are the things that I always inherit, right? But yes, those are my expectations. I want the Dallas Cowboys to play the last Sunday in January and play in the second week of February, because for my generation, being born past the year of '96, I haven't experienced my Dallas Cowboys do anything of that sort. But we understand what the expectation is, but I need people to understand that it's a mindset, and there's a way in which you get to that, right? A lot of times people are like, this is the expectation for the Dallas Cowboys. If they don't meet it, their season was a failure. And sometimes it is. But there's other times when you look at this roster and you have to be like, damn, like, how were we expecting this team to play the last Sunday of January or the second week of February when their offensive line depth is trash and some of their offensive lineman starters go out and they're struggle, right? Dak Prescott was getting hit too often, blah blah blah, right? Offensive tackles need to play better, Tight end room needs to be better. As a whole, running back 2 needs to be better. Ryan Florida needs to keep up the consistency and show that he can fully separate and be a full-time wide receiver 3 that moves around and gets special packages that a guy like Avontae Turpin has, right? So I'm just looking at some of those things from an offensive perspective that needs to change, that needs to get better. We need to fix our offensive line depth. Our offensive tackles need to be better. Our tight end room as a whole needs to get better. Running back 2 needs to get solved. And we need George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, for those guys to remain consistent and to constantly ball out each and every Sunday, right? So those guys, so the number one thing I felt like for the Dallas Cowboys, in order for them to play the last Sunday of January or the second week of February, you need the Dallas Cowboys mentally for everyone to be on the same state, whether that is the front office, the coaches, the janitor, the ball people, the journalists, people that talk about the Dallas Cowboys, whether in-house or YouTube, TikTok, whatever. We all need to have that same mindset. And I believe not only from the same mindset, from not only a fan perspective in the building, your leaders and on the people on your team need to have those same expectations. And I believe everyone on the offense side has that expectations, as well as the defense. The veterans that we brought in, like Rashawn Gary, Malachi Lawrence coming in from UCF, a rookie, Donovan Ezeraku, Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark. Quinnen Williams is one of the guys that brought it up when you have an offense that is as legit as the Dallas Cowboys, because Quinnen Williams has never been on a legit type of offense since Bama, right? And that was damn near been 10 years ago since he's been on Alabama. He says, hey, when you have an offense that is that special, we need to look at ourselves defensively and we need to play to a better standard, which I believe we will. Right? And then secondly, I feel like coaching really matters when it comes to these big time games. How many times have we looked at the Dallas Cowboys in the past postseason runs and we're ultra depending on our talent to come in and save us in games, instead of why can't we win the clipboard matchup? Why can't we go into playoff games super excited like, hey, I want to see what Brian Schottenheimer can do against the 49ers defense, the Packers defense, the Buccaneers defense, whoever the hell we play in the playoffs this year, right? Detroit, Tampa, whatever, right? Why can't we go into games saying, damn, I'm super excited to see what Brian Schottenheimer is going to do with Dak Prescott and this team being ultra bad, against 11 personnel or 12 personnel, 13 personnel. We look at those tendencies as fans. Are the coaches going to look at it as well and attack those personnels? Are those tendencies that we see as a fan? Because if we see them as fans or as people that do a really good job of doing content, the people in the building should know that as well and should look to attack that as well. And Christian Parker, right? We talk about Christian Parker, he's getting hyped up a lot, and deservingly so, right? I want Christian Parker to live up to those expectations, and I want to make sure that he's having those guys and having us being the defense, having them ready in positions. Guys like Caleb Downs, DeMarvin Overshown, Jay Sean Barham, the safety room, Jalen Thompson, Malik Hooker, Kobe Durant, Savon Revel, Malachi Lawrence, Donovan Ezeraku, you name it. Everyone on our team, can he fully utilize and get the most out of this defense? Him and everybody else that's a part of this defensive staff. I think that's the number 2 part. Mindset's number 1. 2, can your coaching elevate your players? And 3, you have to also look at your team, and we have to get healthy. I don't want nobody feeling bad ever for my team, not even the fans. I don't want us ever feeling bad about ourselves at all. But what I mean by that is we've been dealing with so many injuries. So does everybody else that makes the playoffs. So I'm not saying we're excluded from anybody else. I'm not. We're not better than nobody else. But when I look at every single year that we've made the playoffs since Mike McCarthy got here in 2021, right? He came in 2020, but that was an injury-riddled season. But you look at 2021, you look at having injuries in the cornerback room, having injuries with your starting running back in Ezekiel Elliott. You look at your defensive line room, Brent Urban getting injured. I'm looking at a couple of those things, us underwhelming. I look at a couple of those things on the offense side of the football in 2021 and the defense side of the football. We had some injuries. We look at 2022, we got worse on purpose. We were hurt at wide receiver 2, hurt at corner, hurt all the offensive line. So we were hurt really bad in 3 major spots of the team: secondary, trenches, and wide receiver spot. So with you being bad in all those 3 areas of your team in 2022, you look at some of the downfalls and what we had issues with come playoff time. We had lack of explosives, offensive line was getting beat up to hell, and people were able to attack at cornerback too. You look at 2023, you didn't have too much injuries, but if you look at the weak spot on the Dallas Cowboys, we had no linebackers. As soon as Leighton Vander Esch went out, when Trent Williams did that thing on Leighton Vander Esch and messed up his neck, we didn't have any linebackers, right? It was the debate, should we put Michael Parsons at linebacker? Hey, what about Rashawn Evans? Marquise Bell weighing 205 pounds, 210 pounds soaking wet, him being our best inside linebacker, and that's what Green Bay attack came come playoff time. So, health is a big part of it as well. And then another thing I want to contribute to that point is that's why I'm super on the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to wanting to make this roster better. That's why I'm always looking at spell track and I'm looking at all of these different sites and hey, what player can be available made for trade or guys in free agency, I need the Dallas Cowboys to not get complacent. I think there's too many times that you look at each of those seasons, 2021, 22, and 23, that when the Dallas Cowboys know that there is a glaring need at a position that we feel that is glaring, if we're trying to look under each stone and we're trying to improve and get better at every turn, I need the Dallas Cowboys to feel the same way. Like, for example, if our tight end room is highly productive this year and they're a room that's able to at least get 1,300 yards this year, I want them to look at the trade market and say, hey, can we go trade for Trey McBride? This is just a hypothetical. I'm not saying Trey McBride is going to be available, but I'm just saying, if there's a way that we can get better, hey, the Raiders are not looking good again this year. They're looking for a high draft capital type of pick. They're looking for a high draft pick. Let's shop Max Crosby. I need the Dallas Cowboys to be on that. I don't care if we're undefeated at the trade deadline. I don't care if we're 5 or 6 games above 500. I want the Dallas Cowboys to always look to improve their roster, to push them over the top. Case in point, right? We look at the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks were one of the most complete teams throughout the entirety of the season last year. They were well above 500 going into the trade deadline, and they said, how can we get better? And they did that. They got Rashid Shaheed. He changed the dynamic of their team from an offensive perspective and a special teams perspective. So he helped out two sides of the ball. That was a team that was not complacent. I look at a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that is active at the trade deadline, active in the draft, active in free agency. That's a team that's always looking to get better. Kansas City, when they're healthy and they're looking to get better, they're always looking to add something. Hell, if they're looking to add backup quarterback depth, they're looking to add another veteran wide receiver, tight ends. They're looking at all sort of things to help their team. I need the Dallas Cowboys to do the same thing. So if we're looking back, overviewing the video, in order for us to reach those expectations, I need the Dallas Cowboys to be focused on throughout the entire organization, from creators, from journalists, from everybody else. I need everyone to be focused on the same level and have the same mindset. 2, I'm looking for coaching. I need coaching to elevate the players. I need the players to put themselves, that once they're put into a great position, I need them to elevate above that. But then I also need the coaching to put us in great positions, when we're going into the playoffs. Because a lot of times in the playoffs, everyone's talented. What's going to separate you is how disciplined you are and how well can you get, the most out of your players, right? And then 3, you need to get healthy. You need to stay healthy. Again, that's more of a luck-based type of thing. And then 4, you always need to look to get better. And then again, it goes back to my first point talking about the front office. You always need to look to get better. Don't stay complacent. Don't feel like you're good enough. Always find a way to get better. So that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.